The most commonly asked question, how to learn any programming faster, better, easier. Let's break it down. I'll be using a framework called 80-20 rule, which the 20% of knowledge would allow you to learn or do 80% of tasks. How and what? Let's try to go for it. Now, the easiest thing to go for this kind of thing is the basics. The 20% circle. Now, to understand this, let's understand. If we divide entire learning journey in multiple circles, the center one talks about the 20%, then the higher circle talks about next, and so on. Let's create the entire language to 100%. The most common thing we need to realize is we can just learn 20%, start practicing that, which will majorly do 80% of your task. Good question is, what should be this 20%? Because that 20% would vary language to language and your target. Now, for example, for most of the programming languages like C, C++, Java, Python, the 20% would include the basic syntax, semantics, operators, variable identifiers, if and conditional statements, loops. This is the most bottom core 20%. With this, majority of program you should be able to finish. Learning this 20% is not gonna help, because this 20% you first need to understand and then practice. For practice, I generally tend to follow something called as 1:4 ratio, which means if I have taken a topic which takes 10 minutes for me, I'll be practicing 40 minutes for it. So logic is very simple. Why we do so? Because we would read things and understand it once, but if we do not practice, we will soon forget. There is a famous quote which says, I do not remember. I remember is the experience. So the best option is pretty simple. You would take the core concept and then practice them multiple times with different problems, so that your core would be stronger and you will understand not only what but also how to and why to of the programming. So, is there any basic way to learn things effectively and faster both? Yes. The most basic way, which I always tell my students, is make your own notes. Part 1. That means you start listening to the lecture. Maybe here you are listening to me. Start making your own notes. There is no shortcut to your own notes. Your own notes would go best for you. So you create your notes. Part 1. Part 2. Once notes are created, pause or stop the video, go through the notes which you have made to revise the entire stuff. Once that is done, second phase starts. Now take a set of questions which are on basis of whatever notes or whatever you have learned and you have written, and start practicing. This would give you the best answer, best process, and the longest time you will remember whatever you learn. Another problem which we have is, fine Amar, we practice. What we should or how we should practice? Should we write or should we code? That's the most common question. Now the best way to understand this is syntax. You would be writing by hand. The more you write by hand, your brain will remember what is it, how it is written, and what are the things which are needed for it. And once you understood the syntax, the practice should be done on machine. Why? Paper will not give you error, machine will give you error. So I prefer making notes and practicing syntax handwritten, whereas the coding should be done on a proper IDE or any online IDE, because then you will understand what are the mistakes you are making. Never get worried about error. Read error. Lot of students just get demotivated or stop coding when they get error. Error है, error क्यों है वो पढ़ो, error किस वजह से आ रहा है वो पढ़ो. Try to understand the basic means why error is caused. Ask Stack Overflow, ask Google, or ask ChatGPT why I am getting this error. Do not ask ChatGPT to correct. Ask ChatGPT why I am getting this error and understand. Because once you understood why you got that error, next time you will not make a mistake, and this will improve your coding further. Increasing the circle. Remember, initially I said that we will start with a small circle of 20%, but we have to reach 100%. So what you would do? We first make a core very clear. So that's 20%. You practice, you understood, now you're good at it. Then increase the size of circle by adding another 20 or 10% to the circle width, making it 30 or 40%. Sir means, consider again example. If you are dealing with Python or Java or C, C++, we have done till loops. Now the next thing you will be learning, if it is a Java, you will be learning array. If it is C, C++, you will be learning array. If it is Python, you will be learning data structures like list, set, tuple and dictionary. So adding a data structure which will hold the data, and now you are dealing with data manipulation exercises, understanding how data is stored and what can manipulate it and what kind of question. Once this is done, you will further increase the size of your circle, make it now 50 or 60%, where we'll be now talking about adding things like string and string manipulations. If you are dealing with C, C++, Java, string. If you are dealing with Python, it's string again. Validation, how to work, how to operate, this all things would come into picture for increases the circle. So every regular interval you will increase the circle. You started with 20, but you will not wait at 20. Slowly you will go for 30, 40, 50 and 60. Once you reach to a point that you have done till functions, that's the time your 80% of the circle is ready. Now remaining 20% is going to be crucial. How? Let us understand. For remaining 90% and 100%, the first thing you will be adding to this part is OOPS. If you are dealing with C++, Java and Python, each of them deals with object-oriented programming system. You would now understand the concept of object-oriented programming, building class and object, inheritance, encapsulation, polymorphism. This all will be added to make your circle grow as much as 90%. So done, but 10% is left. Now depending on which platform you are, the last 10% circle I will give it to the libraries, depending on the project which you want to do. If it's a Python, there can be visualization library. If it is Java, there can be different libraries for localization, transaction. So this is what you will be adding at the end, extra libraries. And more important, along with the libraries, if you are learning languages like Python, Java, which supports GUI programming, the GUI part which makes it 100%. So a quick recap to whatever I said. The 20% is up to loop, that is operator, variable, keywords, everything from your conditional statement to loops is the core 20%. Increase the size, you will be now doing arrays. Increase the size, you will be now doing string. Increase the size, you will be now doing something which we call as a function. Increase the size, you will be now doing something which we call as object-oriented programming. Increase the size, now you will be doing something which we call as a GUI as the final layer. Now this is done, now you know the language. So it's done? No. Now you know the language. Now you will start using it. Till now, you have been dealing with the various small topics and handling problem of these small topics. But now the road actually starts. Now you knew the language. Now you understood the language. Now let's start using it. So इससे आगे क्या? Well, simple. From this point onwards, once you understood the language, let's make a use of the language. The best way of understanding any language and doing great in a language is practice. But let's understand, you can solve multiple problems and be good with the language, or you can enjoy problem solving by doing a real life project. I am today whatever I am is thanks to my project work. So I have been developing a lot of small application, large scale application, right from the days of industry till now. I have been dealing with application development. So application development allows you to literally create small scale or large scale application which will have a lot of concept refreshments. You would be happy to see that whatever you are coding is coming out as some productive work. So project based learning is always the best option. I would give you the list of projects which are small scale projects which you should be able to develop or we should be developing for practicing your any programming language. These projects can be developed very easily with Java and your Python. Another list I have given it for C, C++. Those things you can go and see in the description and try to develop these things. Another common question which I get from students is the depth versus the coverage. I belong to the category, see, there will be never 100% you know about the language, but you know language core completely and you know your area of a language. For example, My specialty is application building, automation, data science. I might not be something great in machine learning, although I know machine learning, but I haven't worked much onto the project. I have worked majorly into development, data science, automation. That's my job. Similarly, you have to pick an area. So you will not go in a depth of something. You will have a coverage. You understand Python language, you understand libraries, but you will not be able to use and understand all libraries. You will select, handpick certain libraries which are needed in your project. You will learn them, develop a project, and then move to the next. What remains in this solid is the core which you have learned. On the layer, the outer layer will start changing. You might use a different library for one project, you might use a different library for another project. So libraries are add-ons. You will not or should not learn all. You should learn definitely those libraries which are needed for your project or needed for your goal. Simple. नई चीजें सीखें, be consistent, be focused on what you want to achieve, and with a hard work you will be able to achieve. बाकी सबके लिए career credentials है ना.